In this last video on the seventh commandment, which is you shall not steal, Luther explains it rightfully this way: we should fear and love God, that we do not take our neighbor's money or property, but or get it by dishonest gain, but improve upon it, like help them improve, protect it, and help them manage and keep their source of income, their means of income. So we've been talking about our neighbor, and that is the nature of the 4th through 10th commandments, really speaking about our love for our neighbor out of love for God, which are the first 3 commandments. But this is an opportune time to talk about, first and foremost, recognize everything comes from God. With that, we are to manage our property well and to do all things out of honor for God. And in that, right, protect another's properties and help them keep it. So if everything belongs to God, what are we obligated for, if you will? Or what should we always have in mind when it comes to God and how we show our love for Him in regard to our possessions? So that's where we're headed today. Explain how it is possible to steal from God. Hence, since God owns everything and everything we have is really on loan to us from God, for which we must give an account, think about the ways in which God would have us use our possessions. That's kind of where I'm getting at. Can you name, for example, the 4 ways that God wants us to use our possessions? We started a few videos ago, again, recognizing that since God owns everything and gives away His possessions so that we might be stewards of these things, and in that light, we honor Him by being good stewards and also helping others be good stewards, keeping their possessions for their benefit. We thought about this passage from Proverbs 3:9, honor the Lord with your wealth, with the first fruits of your crops. That would be one way, for example, of how God wants us to use our wealth in regard to Him. So first things first, in order to not steal from God, we want to give Him our first fruits, the best that we have, in keeping with our income, so percentage-based, first things first, giving to God through our offerings. Another way, and this is a passage in Galatians where God would say, if anyone will not provide for the family, they're worse than a non-believer. We want to provide for our family. So we are obligated not to spend our paychecks on just us or whatever addictions, gambling, drinking, or anything like that, but provide for family. That's an obligation we fulfill out of love for the Lord. That's what He commands us. Or paying our taxes. Again, these are for our neighbors, right? For government. So Romans 13, whomever we owe anything to, we should pay, whether honor, respect, or taxes. So we are to pay our taxes too. And the Proverbs speak about taking care of the needy, the poor. In Matthew 25, we've covered passages where Jesus said, whatever you gave to the least of these, you gave to me, remembering the poor. So the Lord wants us to keep those 4 things in mind: Him, our family, taxes, poor. He would be first, so those other 3 are just obligations, all equally important. And then whatever's left, right? Well, Proverbs talk about saving. Proverbs would also encourage us to enjoy our days in the Lord. Ecclesiastes as well, to find satisfaction in life. That might mean then, obviously, if you're wealthy, to be generous with that wealth, to share with others, to enjoy life. So those things are good, but those are the last things, especially whatever it is for yourself, just an enjoyment. With that, if you had trouble kind of figuring out, well, what 4 things does God want me to have? And then what other blessings are there in utilizing my money to being a saver, to being generous, and so on? If we struggled with that, that might mean, of course, then our sinful nature could get the better of us. And we might be stealing from God. Passage that kind of underscore this truth that God owns everything, and therefore we are just stewards, managers of what we have, and ought to keep in mind God's desire. James 1:17, every good and perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father of the heavenly lights, who does not change like shifting shadows. So every good thing that we have, all our material possessions, comes from God. That sums up some of the conversation we can have on the 7th commandment. Of course, if, as always, you have other ideas that come to mind about the different forms of stealing, the different ways we could use the property and possessions we have, by all means, talk about those things. Meditate on that will of God, and may we always be faithful in looking to use our possessions in the right way. And wherever we fail, turn to Christ, who is our righteousness, our forgiveness, our hope, and then be blessed. We'll see you next time as we study the 8th commandment.